Hello, ladies. My favorite friends. How are my mamas doing today? I am really excited about this topic. Guys, y'all know I love protein. So, before we dive in today on this topic, I wanted to get a quick pulse from you guys who is here live with me, joining me live. So, if you are here live, comment live in the comment section below. And if you are here on replay, comment replay so I know that you caught this training later. There were many of you that had engaged in a post that I made earlier this week, and I was like, oh my gosh, didn't realize this is what everyone was experiencing. And so, when it comes to protein intake, I wanted to make sure that I did a little mini training with you guys and in concerns to actually hitting your daily protein. So many of you said on this topic, you were like, hey, I know my numbers that I should be consuming in concerns to my protein intake. So if that is you, comment one in the comments, meaning if you know your daily number of protein, comment one. If you're like, I do not know my daily protein number, I don't know what I should be consuming, comment two, just to get a pulse on where you guys are at, what kind of group we're here with you guys, and kind of going from there. So again, let me know in the comments if which one you are, so I can make sure I'm supporting you guys through that conversation. Okay. Let me see if I have the chats on here. Blah. Always do this and I'm like, ah. So again, let's dive in so we can kind of getting and get right to the point. As you guys know, on my monthly trainings I do with you guys, it is only about 20 minutes. So I want to give you some actionable things that you can take and put into place into your own life, and that you're leaving these trainings with actionable tasks that you can use. So if at any time through this training you were like, ooh, value, or if you get some sort of value, comment value. So I know that that's you guys are gaining information and you're going to be able to use it in your own journey. Also, if anyone wants to help pick out some amazing colors for my my house, that has been up there for like 5 years. So I'm having a hard time committing to a color in my household. Okay, that was a total side note. So my name is Chase Williams. For those of you that do not know me, I am a certified personal trainer and nutritionist, and I am the owner of Chaseland Fitness, which is an online coaching program for millennial moms to help them create a household of health. And so I'm excited you are here. I do monthly trainings inside this Facebook group to really just support you along your journey, give you some extra tips and tricks that you guys can take along with you inside your own fitness journey. So welcome, and let's dive in. So first things first, again, diving into protein intake. How do we hit our daily protein? Biggest thing here. Again, when I polled you guys earlier in this week, you guys were like, oh, I know my numbers. It's just difficult for me to actually consume the numbers, right? Like actually having a hard time like hitting those numbers. And then you also mentioned that, what else did y'all say? You also mentioned it was hard for you guys to do it on a consistent basis. And so again, goal of this conversation today is really give you tips on how you can take your number, break it down, and how do you actually know how much to consume per meal, and then going from there. Okay. And I'm also going to give you some trips on selecting foods when you're out on the go, because that's the hardest thing. I know when we travel, when we leave the house, I'm like, oh, I got to run somewhere and just grab something. I'm always like, what should I grab? Because I know that I'm going to need protein. And I'm like, what do I take? What do I eat? What do I do? Right. And so I'm going to give you a couple of tips in that space as well. So again, I'm going to start with right here, the biggest thing with protein. If you are, goals really depend on what your goals are. If you are on a fat loss goal, protein is super important because it helps you continue putting on muscle. It helps you rebuild the cells that you're breaking down in your workouts. And the more muscle you have on your body, the more fat loss you can have because you're burning more calories throughout the day. Okay. So if you're on a fat loss, if you are in a muscle growing or a strength base and you're working in a surplus, majority of the women in my Facebook group, that is not you. If that is you and you're like, you have questions about it, feel free to send me a PM. A PM. Do we say PM or do we just say DM? Private message? Direct message? Y'all get what I'm saying here. Just send me a message and we could chat about like that. But in concerns to this training today, we're going to be specifically talking about just the fat loss component and actually getting in protein intake for fat loss. And technically, your goal body weight, I'm just going to keep it simple here. Whatever your goal body weight is, the middle range here, yes, there is a range, but just to keep things simple, you guys have probably heard it from me before, is making sure that you consume your foods under the, if your goal body weight, I'm sorry, I totally got sidetracked there for a second. Your goal body weight, if it is 150 pounds, if your goal body weight is 150, you will be consuming. I always tell people this is a very simple math thing to do. Consume 150 grams of protein if that is your goal body weight. Just do 1 pound per gram. So whatever the goal body weight is. If I am, looking to put on weight, it would be the same thing and working your way up or going into that so you're consuming enough protein in order for your goals. Okay, so that's super math. I'm going to use the 150 throughout today's training. So if your goal body weight was 150 and you are, again, I know a lot of you guys coming to this training, you were looking to do, you were looking to know how to hit your actual goal. So you guys already know this number, right? But I just wanted to kind of add that in there. So if 150 grams or whatever your grams are, you're going to take that and then divide that by how many meals you're actually going to eat throughout the day. Okay. So if you are, for me, I have 5 meals a day. I have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then I have 2 snacks. And the reason I do that is because every couple of hours I'm starving. This is also what I teach my clients to do inside my coaching program when they're in my core program. It is about creating consistency and sustainability long term. And so, eating every couple of hours, you're constantly feeding your body and you're not getting to that point of like starvation, meaning not starvation, but you're not getting that point of like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. I'm just going to stuff my face. And then you end up binging. And so, the goal is here is making sure you do eat every couple of hours. So, this is going to be personal preference. However many meals you eat a day is going to be how many you divide this by. So, if your goal is 150 grams a day, you're going to divide that for me. That's 5 meals a day. Okay. That's me. You will divide it by, if you're only eating three, put three. If you're only eating four, put four. You get the point here. So you're going to divide it. Guys, this is just reverse engineering the process so that you can then build out your day. Now, once you do that, this gives me about 30 grams per meal. I need to be having 30 grams of protein per meal or snack. And what does that look like? So for here, it's starting your day with protein. It's interesting because I see a lot of Facebook posts and I see a lot of things what people are like, my breakfast looks so good. And I'm like, there's absolutely no protein on that plate that I'm seeing right now. I'm just being honest, it's what I see on the internet. So biggest thing here is making sure that every single time you're consuming food, there's some sort of protein involved in your food. And it doesn't have to be. I know I did one of these posts. Like I actually, with about a year ago, I stopped drinking a protein shake or having a protein bar every single day. I have it a couple of times a month and I'm good to go. If like I'm running late to swim practice for my kids, that's when I would implement something like that. But the thing here is how do I hit 30 grams or your number, right? Like, cause you just did your own math. How are we going to hit the 30 grams of protein um, on our meals or in our meals? And so you reverse engineer your numbers. You got your own number. What does that number look like? And now, how do we build out a meal to making sure that every single time we eat, we are hitting our protein? So, starting with your first meal of the day, you need to make sure that you actually have protein involved in that meal. And I'm not going to tell you what to eat on this call. And the reason for that is because there's a million different people in the world, and you guys all eat different stuff. Some of y'all don't like chicken. Some of y'all don't like eggs. So I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, this is what you can do in order to hit your numbers. No, you're going to have to figure this out on your own. Okay. You're going to have to do some trial and error to like really figure out what your things are. And how we focus on the 30 grams, you're gonna have to put something into an app. If you're like, oh, I'm just gonna throw stuff in here, you have no idea how many grams of food or how many grams of protein are in these things without ever tracking. So you're gonna have to track at some point in your process to know where you're starting at. Again, if you've been on my trainings before, you've heard me say this. Start with tracking, get some awareness. Again, this is a piece that I put into my clients' process because you have to know where you're starting with anything. That could be with any goal. It could be with like anything, absolutely anything. And so knowing where you're currently at so you can make adjustments moving forward. So I would highly suggest like, hey, okay, this is what I'm gonna have for breakfast. Let me go ahead and plug this into the app really quick and see how much protein it is. From there, you're able to take that and be like, oh, I just realized there's no protein in this entire thing that I'm eating. So you can know maybe the next day or the next day you can actually make adjustments to hitting your numbers and hitting more protein in that morning breakfast time. So start your day with breakfast or with protein in your breakfast. Okay. Next piece here is filling out your meals. Like we do our big meals first. And when you do your big meals, you can then do filler stuff in those other, like the snacks. And you're like, okay, I can have this, I can have this. And so when you build them out, you can know, okay, I'm going to have a higher protein intake at dinner. I'm going to have a higher protein intake at breakfast. And then that way you've got, instead of the 30 grams per snack. So if you did the 5 like I am, you can actually break those down and maybe do 40, 40, and then you break down the rest of them with however many grams you have left. So again, this is reverse engineering your entire day. And that way you know how many you can eat per meal, right? So breaking down your numbers that way. Next component here is, hey, okay, now that I've broken down my numbers, I did my morning breakfast. I'm now upping and I'm going to put some stuff I'm going to start tracking it. So I know awareness wise what this looks like. Next piece here is you could do that for each meal. Like, hey, let me assess first. Let me get some awareness first and then make some edits. The next piece here is when you're picking snacks or you're picking foods, if you are going for just got to run to the grocery store, or you have to run into a convenience store because you're running somewhere and you're trying to do something, you're in a hurry or whatever. You're like, I just need something really quick. I need to fuel my body. What is that thing that you're going to grab? And the best thing here is when you look at packaging, the best thing, if you guys have not grabbed my label guide, I highly recommend grabbing it. But the label guide, if you don't have that label guide, comment label, and I'll make sure I get that over to you guys. I wasn't planning on saying anything about this, but now that I'm talking about labels, I was like, I should probably let them know I have this guide for them. So if you want labels, if you want this guide, comment label, and I'll make sure me or someone from my team messages you and gets that over to you. So biggest thing, you're going to look at your label. You want to look for protein. The biggest thing here is higher the protein, the better. Some of these bars that you can go and grab and they're like, oh, it's a protein bar, and you pick it up and there's like 4 grams of protein. I'm like, what? Again, goal is not to go to bars or having to depend on all that stuff, but sometimes you are in a pinch and you need something to grab. Check the label, how much protein is in the food you're about to consume, right? Whether it's a bar, whether it's a yogurt, no matter what you're going to be grabbing, check the protein. How much protein is in this? Go for 10, 15 grams. That way you can add a couple of things to that meal. And the next thing you know, you've got 30 grams of protein, right? It's like, oh, that happened like really quick because I was focusing on making sure everything I'm consuming does have some sort of a protein in it. Okay. So again, if you want that guide, that label guide, comment label, I'll make sure I plug you guys over and get that over to you guys. Okay, anything landing for y'all? Those of you that are watching here live with me, what's hitting home? What is something that is landing for y'all? I want to hear from you guys. Yes, gas stations are the best. Yeah, in a pinch, always have hard-boiled eggs and cheese sticks. Amen. I was actually just thinking about that because it's kind of funny because some gas stations you go to are like kind of like, meh. But man, sometimes you get to I know Buc-ee's like has so many options. Like they've got fruit cups, they've got like all kinds of good stuff in there. But hard boiled eggs, they've got yogurt, like things that you can grab and make the process super easy. So, and beef jerky is always my go-to as well. I'm like, just grab some jerky because I know I could get at least 10 to 15 grams of protein in a serving. So those are some things to kind of think about. Again, if you're in a pinch, I totally had to stop at Aldi the other day on the way to swim practice because I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't grab any food and we got behind on what we were doing. And so making sure that you are grabbing something that has protein in it. So check the labels, making sure you're good to go. Okay. So kind of reframing here, we're going to step back a little bit. first things first, awareness, putting your food in there, making sure your first meal of the day, breakfast, is going to have a high number of protein. The next piece to this is putting this food that you're consuming, measure it out, track your food for a day or two, see where you're at, evaluate some things, and then make some changes in the coming days. Okay. This way it gives you some awareness on like what you're doing, how much you're consuming, and you can make changes from there. Next piece is when you're adding foods, always go check the labels. Check the labels. That was me flipping up the little label. Check the labels. And when you're looking at the labels, you're looking for a high number of protein, high number of protein. And I also always say less amount of ingredients, the better. Again, if you grab that label guide, it gives you a lot of good tips on how to kind of clean up your label reading and what to look for in a label. All right, third and final piece here is when you're planning out your day and you're going through the protein. Again, you guys have heard me say this over and over and over again. You have to plan your day. You have to plan your day. You cannot leave your day to chance. You can't. Because if you are really wanting to see your bond, if you're really wanting to see results, if you're really wanting to like actually see some success, you cannot wing it. You can't. I've had many people try it, it doesn't work. Okay. If you're looking to see results and you're looking to actually see success in your either weight loss or your strength training journey, whatever the thing is, guys, you have to plan ahead. And so biggest thing here is like setting out your week, knowing what proteins you're going to make for the week, making sure that they are prepped, making sure that they are cooked, whatever the thing is for you, so that you can make your life easier. Okay. This training is not on prepping and planning. That's not what it's about. It's about how to actually hit your protein intake. Okay. So again, stepping back, looking at your week as a whole, what kind of protein can I, you know, like what can I do in order to make my life easier? What can be grab and go? What things do I need to set up? All of that. So it's little things like instead of buying the big yogurt that's in this thing, you have the little yogurts, like the little yogurts in the containers where you take the lid off, right? Like in this, add your honey, add your seeds, add your fruit, and then you're good to go. You've got 20, 30 grams of protein, 20 grams. I think usually Greek yogurt's like 20 grams. But that way, that's easier because then I can grab and go and take it on the road, right? Instead of buying the big container. Again, do things that are going to be easy for you to edit, easy for you to implement, all of that kind of good stuff. So, again, those are my three biggest tips on how you can actually hit your daily protein. And just as a recap here, number one, you're going to reverse engineer your numbers, making sure your numbers are accurate. I gave a quick little thing. So some of you were like, oh, I already know my numbers. I know what I should be consuming. Great. I'm so glad for you. Reverse engineer it. How many meals a day are you eating? Break it down, put those numbers, knowing your average. So mine's 30, and then be able to track it. So this is going to be the next piece of the puzzle. Track your numbers for awareness, make adjustments moving forward. And then from there, making sure that you're reading labels. And when you do have to read labels and you are consuming that kind of food and you're picking things out to eat, go for 10 or more grams of protein there in your labels. And then next piece to that is planning ahead. Plan ahead, prep ahead, make sure the food is readily available for you to grab and to consume. Because if it's not, guess what you're going to go for? The bag of chips. Promise you, every time. That's what you're going to do. And you wait too long to eat, you're not consuming enough protein, guess what? You're going to have so many random like little cravings that are going to come up and you're like, oh, I just crave this. Oh, I just crave this. I'm like, well, how's your protein doing? You're like, well, I'm like, okay, how about we start with protein intake and then we can go from there. So guys, thank you for joining me. It's been about 20 minutes. As you guys know, I do a live training once a month here in this Facebook group. And so as y'all know, comment below if you got some value from today's training. Comment below value. I just want you to drop it below value, value, value. I want to see them in the comments so I know that this kind of training or these kind of trainings are supportive to you guys. I don't want to just be doing a training and then you guys are like, that was dumb, right? No one wants that. I don't want to waste your time. And I want you guys to really get some stuff from it. So again, if you got some value, comment value. And next piece here, I've got a quick little, it's super simple. It's tips that actually work for my clients. So it's a quick little, it's like a one pager. So if this is something, it just gives you 12 tips on eating more protein. And so if you want this guide or this one pager, comment protein tips below. Comment protein tips below. And again, I will have me or my team will message you and give you access to this and really help you get clear on what exactly it is that you're struggling with in concerns to your protein. And if there's any support that we could offer you, like I definitely want to make sure that we are supporting you guys. So hopefully this was good for you guys. Again, I want you to drop protein tips if you want that one pager. Comment label if you want my label guide. And then, yeah, if you got value, comment value. Guys, I love you guys. And again, this is Chase Williams with Chaselyn Fitness. And love you guys. And can't wait to see what our next topic is going to be next month. I'm always looking for new ways to serve you guys. So let me know if anything comes up or if there's any questions you guys might have. All right. I'll talk to you guys soon.